If you've been laid off or you left your company, before you do anything with your 401k, find out all the ins and outs. Call Phillis today, 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496.
Most Americans get a failing grade when it comes to retirement literacy, according to the American College of Financial Services. We'll get into the numbers here in just a moment, but financial literacy is a big problem for so many of us. And if you are struggling with this as well, you are in the right place. Thanks for joining us today on Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. I am Jen Rezac here alongside Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus. She is founder and president of PSP and Associates. And Phyllis, when we talk about financial literacy and what the scores are, Houston, we have a problem. It is a problem for a lot of people. 89% of the women who took this quiz failed it, Phyllis. 72% of the men who took it failed it. So it's a problem for a lot of people.
That's a real problem. And, I don't believe it has to be.
Right.
I don't believe it should be. That's the whole message. That's my whole mantra. This is not rocket science. This is not rocket science. And I think one of the biggest problems is people are led to believe that there's some mystique around financial advising and that's not what they do. And they've got to have somebody just do it for them. Well, there are some things that I focus on all day long, like you do on your career. That's what you do all day. But it's really not rocket science, and my job, and you should look for an advisor who does this, is to break it down, educate you to make decisions. It's not that tough, especially if you've done the hard part, which has been a discipline saver, and you've done the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that it should be that scary and that you should just hand it over to somebody else, because then you're going to get bad scores. I'd love to see that test for how many people who have advisors.
Right. Well, and I think a couple of things when I look at these numbers. So I did go through and take the quiz. And as I said, it's a 38 question quiz. It took a while. Now, I took it twice, actually, because the first time I got, I think, like a 73, and it made me mad. And so I decided to go back and take it again. But part of what happened the first time, I got toward the end, and there were some long, kind of convoluted questions, and I just said, I don't care. I'm going to pick C. I just want to get this over with.
I get you.
So the second time I took it, I got an 82%. So I took my time, I took it seriously, and I tried a little bit harder. But the thing is, Phyllis, who wants to be messing with something like this? I mean, if you've been working hard in your career and you've done a great job with whatever it is that you've been doing for a living, whether you're a nurse or a doctor or a teacher, whatever you've been doing, I don't want to be worrying about what my score is on a test like this, quite honestly. I mean, I wonder how many people who that's what's going on, where it's just like, why should I have to get an A+ in financial planning when I've been, nailing my career for 30 years?
That's a real good point. But again, because you've nailed your career for 30 years on the front end, do some due diligence and take control and make sure that your money's in the right place and partner with somebody who can then monitor it with you. Mm-hmm. But break it down, understand it, because in my career, I've seen it so many times that people come on in and it's their advisor's fault or it's their accountant's fault or it's somebody else's fault because they lost too much money. Well, they didn't know on the front end. They didn't know on the front end what they needed to know to make a well-informed decision. You don't have to get in the weeds, but I say it every week. As you get closer to retirement, all the rules change. What you did to get that money accumulated in the accumulation phase is so much different than what you need your money to do in the retirement phase. So you just have to understand what are those things you need to be concerned with, and high level, what are your options for building a plan that insulates you from those concerns, and then go off and have a blast and let's monitor it. That's it.
There you go. Well, and Phyllis, I know you are all about education. That's a big part of what you like to do, is giving people the resources, helping them learn a little bit about this stuff so they don't have to blindly put their trust in someone. They have the knowledge themselves, right? Talk a little bit about your approach when it comes to helping people grasp some of these concepts, because again, they've been nailing their career for all these years. They've been doing whatever it is they've been doing. Financial planning for retirement hasn't been a real big focus. Talk a little bit about your approach to helping them understand some of these concepts, because things are a little bit different for your retirement money versus your career money.
Absolutely. Our proprietary process, the Retire Fit Analysis process, walks you through all the pieces of a retirement puzzle that have to fit together. Real quick, here's what they are. Meaningful budget. Let's walk through that. That's not as easy as just sitting down and writing down the bills. It's talking about why and what you want your lifestyle to look like. And then an income plan. There is no retirement without cash flow. You don't get a do-over. So we want to make sure that we have an income plan that builds into it raises, because inflation never sleeps. And in part of that income plan, when do we take Social Security to wring out every dollar and cent from Social Security? It shouldn't be a knee-jerk decision. Pensions, same thing. You need an investment strategy, high level, that supports the amount of risk that you're comfortable taking. The only way you're going to do that is if you know what it is to begin with, and how much you should be taking to accomplish your goals. You need an investment strategy. You need to have a tax strategy. My goodness, we always talk about this. There's a big difference between tax prep, just getting your taxes prepared on April 15th, and having a tax plan, understanding your future liabilities so you can reduce and eliminate unnecessary taxes and pay no more than your fair share. You need a healthcare strategy. As much as we'd like to believe it, that it's never going to happen to us, too many people need custodial care later on in life and have healthcare crises, and it can wipe you out without a strategy for that. And you need certain estate planning documents so that someone can act on your behalf while you're alive if you're incapacitated. And when you pass on, your hard-earned money, those years of hard work, go where you want to go. So that's a lot of pieces, right? Mm-hmm. We break it down into bite-sized pieces. And it really is not rocket science when we do that. And that's what we do. High level, we want you to understand the things you need to be concerned with and what your plan and when you walk in the door is doing in relationship to that. And then we break it down high level, simple. What are the different ways that you can solve those issues? And where are you most comfortable with? Our job is to guide you and then partner with you to manage it. It's not that tough. The Retire Fit Analysis process, totally complimentary, will get you to the point where you understand the things you need to focus on. And whether we're the ones who get you to or through retirement, it'll give you great information, great starting point. If we can be the ones to get you to and through, that's terrific. If not, we can point you in the right direction. And you got to call us for that, though. 623-792-5496. Again, 623-792-5496. Let's start with your Retire Fit Analysis. Totally complimentary. And I got to say this, Jen, before we get away from this. My clients are going to be in timeout if they don't get a good score on this stuff, because it's not rocket science. And high level, we've gone through it all.
Right.
So they're going to come back in for after school session detention.
There you go. Make them do a redo.
You got it.
Well, Phyllis, here's one of the other things I noticed in going through the findings from the American College of Financial Services with this. And I shared this with you before the show as well. I don't have the numbers for men who took this, but for women, only 12% of them said they were knowledgeable about long-term care. So this is just one topic that I know you talk about with retirement planning. 12% felt knowledgeable about it. Only 27% had a plan to do anything about it, but 50% of them thought they would need it. And that, I think, is a real problem where you have so many people recognizing that there's an area that they could run into trouble with, but so few of people have a plan to do anything about it. How do we kind of close that gap between our knowledge and our actions?
Yikes, that hurts me to hear that, because here's the facts. There are so many different options to help safeguard against a healthcare crisis. There are so many different vehicles and tools and planning techniques, and it's going to be different for everybody. It's not that overwhelming, but here's the thing. When we get scared by something, we sweep it under the carpet, or we can't understand it, or we're too busy, and that could be so financially devastating. Everybody has their own financial DNA, and your solution is probably going to be different than your neighbor's solution. But there's lots of different techniques, and that's part of our overall plan. We help you figure out, synthesize what is the best technique for you and your situation. How can we make it palatable that you have leverage? Your money's going to work harder for you. And not go away as quickly if you have a healthcare crisis that can be financially devastating without a plan. So education right here. What's your vulnerability? And, how much you're going to be at risk, and what are your options to solve that? And that's the high level stuff that we'll do with you. Mm-hmm. Call us, 623-792-5496. That really hurts to hear that people are left so vulnerable and they know it could happen to them.
Right. And I just want to point out, Phyllis, you have a great resource available as well. If you go to pspoffers.com, there's the checklist challenge that you can find there. And that is a good place where you can also go in, kind of gauge your readiness, go through, see what all boxes you're able to check off. And if you've got some gaps there, that's a good indicator that maybe you need a little bit more work. Maybe you need a little bit more guidance from somebody like Phyllis. So that's another great place to go as well. If we're talking about some of these different concepts, we're talking about some of these different things, and you just aren't quite sure where you fit and what your needs are, the checklist challenge is a good place for you to go as well. pspoffers.com/list will take you right to it. Or you can also just pick up the phone, call that number Phyllis gave just a moment ago, and say you want to take the checklist challenge, and she'll help you with that. The number again, 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
When it comes to your health, it's clear. You consult your doctor. So why not consult a professional when it comes to money? Just like your doctor, the advice you get from a financial advisor can have a direct impact on your quality of life. Are you paying too much in fees with your current financial professional? What could happen to your nest egg if there's a market correction? If you're unsure, it may be time for a second opinion. Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus is an independent advisor. She doesn't have a boss on Wall Street. Phyllis and her team at PSP & Associates specialize in designing retirement strategies that can allow you to spend more time enjoying life and less time being concerned about your finances. Get your second opinion. 623-792-5496. Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus and PSP & Associates can help make sure your golden years are just that. Golden. 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496. Investment advisory services are offered through PSP Financial Services, LLC, an Arizona registered investment advisor. Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus is also a licensed insurance agent in the state of Arizona.
Thanks for joining us today. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. I'm Jen Rezac, happy to be here with Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus. She's founder and president of PSP & Associates, author of the book Creating Calm Amidst the Storm. Phyllis was the first female advisor on the cover of Senior Market Advisors magazine. You can check her out online at retirewithpsp.com. Lots of great resources available there on the website, retirewithpsp.com. And Phyllis, a lot of us are creatures of habit. Let me ask you, when it comes to going to your favorite restaurant, do you have like a usual order, or do you like to try something different every time? How do you go?
Usual order. It's almost sickening.
Well,
It is.
All right. I wasn't
Coffee
gonna
a
go
certain
there.
way.
Yes. Well, yeah, don't mess with my coffee, seriously.
Yep.
I don't do frou-frou coffee.
I don't either.
I just don't mess with that. But, I'll step out a little bit if, I'll try something different every now and then, especially if I'm on a vacation. I really want to try something different when I try somewhere new. But yeah, there's just something comforting about the usual things that we have and just the routines that we have. I mean, it's just my way of life right now. Routines are helpful. And we recently had the kids switch doctors, I guess I should say, in the past year or so. And it's fine, but it was kind of a hassle to deal with all that. And when it comes to, your bank and your dentist and all those things, I just like things done a certain way. And I will tell you, recently I had to go to a new dentist, or no, it was just a new hygienist at my dentist's office. And I just wanted the old hygienist back. It just,
Yep,
it just wasn't, it just wasn't what I was used to. And she didn't ask me, Phyllis, what flavor of toothpaste that I wanted. And she just picked one and she guessed wrong. She picked blueberry.
Ooh.
Have you ever wanted to brush your teeth with a blueberry,
No.
Phyllis, ever?
No. Never.
What
You're
was
funny.
she thinking? No, it was, so I get it. I like things a certain way. I want it done the way I want it done, and it's hard to deal with something new. So I get that people have a hard time making a transition or adjustments when they get close to retirement, but I want to talk about why that's important because, and we've talked about this before on the show, Phyllis, that whole analogy of climbing a mountain where you get to the top and everything changes when you're coming back down. We've talked about this analogy before, and Phyllis, I lived this climbing a mountain with one of my kids, and finally realizing where it really, really hit home with me that things really do have to change. Everything's different, and I'm only halfway done. I finally understood that, but we really need to understand that when it comes to our retirement, right?
That's crucial. And boy, being 61 years old, I have become so much of a creature of habit. The older you get, I really think the more you get set in your ways. However, one of the worst things that can happen is if you continue to do what you've done with your planning. Mm-hmm. I think it's almost cruel that it's not, I want to scream it from the rooftop. All the rules, all the tools, everything that you've done with your money thus far has to change in retirement because what you've got is now finite.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it is essential that you understand your money needs to do different things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes even the relationship you have, if you're working with someone who's helped you grow your money and save your money and told you, those things, well, if they don't necessarily know how to help you distribute your money or how to plan tax efficiently, that's, going to come back to bite you.
Yeah.
So here's what I suggest. I really strongly suggest that as you start transitioning into retirement, or even if you haven't done it yet, if you're in retirement, sit down with someone like me and, hopefully me, right? Yeah. And let us walk you through the process. Ours is the Retire Fit analysis, and it will take you through each part of the retirement puzzle to make sure that you've accounted for it. And then you'll see very loud and clear, things have changed. If all you do is focus on growth, that's great while you're growing the money and you have a paycheck coming in. But that is going to upset the apple cart and really shorten your, really put a ding in your lifestyle if you don't do things differently in retirement.
Right.
And night and day.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit about how some of those changes that we need to be aware of, especially when it comes to getting income from the things that we've been saving into all of these years. And I go back to the analogy that I tried to bring up a couple minutes ago with this idea of climbing the mountain. When you're going up a mountain, that's the years that you're building up your savings. You're in your working years. You've got that money that's going straight into your 401k or wherever it is that you're saving it, that's just kind of where you go on autopilot. That's the routine. That's what you're doing. And when you're climbing a mountain, you're looking up at the summit, you're pushing up. You can't screw that part up. You can't miss the top of the mountain. It's up there, right? I mean, you'll get there.
You might fall a few times.
You might stumble, but you're not going to miss the top of the mountain. It's up there. But the last time we were doing this, the whole way up, the guide who was with us kept reminding us, you are only halfway there when you get to the top. Don't forget, you are only halfway there when you get to the top. And I heard him say it all day. And all right, fine. I hear you, Brian. I hear you saying that we're only halfway there. But I didn't fully understand it until we made it to the top. And I was with my daughter, Kristen. We took selfies, we celebrated, we took in the view, phenomenal view from the top of this 14,000-foot mountain in Colorado. Just stunning. And so it's just such a celebration, such a big moment that we made it up there. And then when it was time for us to start heading down, that's when it really hit me like a ton of bricks. That's the first time I looked down and realized really how high we were and just what I was going to have to do to get back down. I could see our cars, just these tiny little white vans at the bottom of this mountain. I could see them from so far away. And I thought, how am I going to get back down there? And I'm only halfway done. And the guide's like, I've been telling you that all day. And I'm like, I know, but it just hit me. And that's when everything changed, because when you're going back down, then you're worried about slipping and falling down because you're facing down, you're looking down. And that's when it becomes a bigger risk of actually falling. Talk a little bit about how that works with our money, because we have to be aware of falling and stumbling when we're taking money out of all of these accounts that we've been building into all this time.
That's exactly right. And people we grow up understanding that the markets go up and down and that they always come back. Right? So when you're saving for the long term, if the market goes down and you continue to add money in, that's dollar cost averaging. And that's almost a good thing because, yes, history tells us market always comes back over the long term. However, when you're taking money out for income and the market goes down, you never get back to where you were because you're selling off shares at a much lower price. If your stock was $100 at the market height, and then it went down to, just to make it easy, $50, and you need $200 a month to maintain your lifestyle, well, you've got to sell 4 shares, where before you were selling 2. You're doing reverse dollar cost averaging, and it can really shorten your portfolio, the length of time that your money is going to last you in a downturn. And now another thing is when you're working, taxes, you've got to pay the taxes. You've got your paycheck. You've got to pay those taxes. You're left. It is what it is. You can deduct some into your retirement account, but when you're in retirement and all of a sudden you're taking money out of these taxable accounts, your retirement accounts, you've got to take out a certain amount. Uncle Sam requires it. Otherwise, there's a penalty. And you could, at that point in time, if you knew those taxes were coming, you could adjust things differently to control that a lot better. You don't think about that when you're working. You're busy saving. You're busy just paying what you got to pay. But when you get into retirement, you have a lot more control over that future tax liability that you're not even aware of than you may know. So it's really, really, really important to focus on tax planning, understand when you're going to need your money coming out of the market, and plan so much differently.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how we do that, because we just have to make sure that we are ready for the possibility of living a long time in retirement. We've got to make sure that the money's going to last. And we have to think about some of these other factors like taxes and paying taxes on the money when we start taking it out of those different accounts. Talk a little bit about how your Retire Fit analysis identifies all of these different areas of planning and helps us do something about it.
Sure. First of all, we go through a great exercise to really figure out what retirement's going to look like for you. Paint that picture and put a price tag on it, if you will. And then we break down what are your reliable sources of income that are going to come in, win, lose, or draw. Then if there's a gap, which for most people there is, where you're going to be taking it out of your nest egg, well, now we want to determine, how much risk are you taking in your nest egg? What could happen in a bad market, in a good market? We want to stress test it. We want to understand the fees that you weren't aware maybe that you were paying, but they really add up. And now that you're not adding to these accounts, it's insult to injury. We want to make sure that we understand everything about that, the risk, the fees, how you're allocated. Do you have enough income in a bad market? Do you have enough income coming from these investments so that you don't have to sell off shares that you're never going to get back? We want to understand our future tax liability. Don't just worry about getting your taxes prepared this year, but with your retirement accounts, how much is that going to cost you in the future when you've got to take that money out? People are blown away when we actually show them their future tax liability in real dollars and cents. We've got a program that just lays it out for you. And then you can see if it's more than you experience, which is usually the case. How can we fix that? Well, there's strategies to fix that. We also lay out what it could cost you for health care. If you need custodial care, if you need regular health care, and what are strategies to fix that? Same with estate planning. How can we leave money to our loved ones more than Uncle Sam? It's all called strategies, but we lay it out for you to see where you are in relationship to where you want to be. Retire Fit analysis, no obligation. Call us, 623-792-5496.
Phillis Sachs-Pilvinus is founder and president of PSP and Associates. That number again, 623-792-5496. Retire Financially Fit with Phillis continues after this. Thanks for joining us today. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phillis. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Phillis Sachs-Pilvinus. She is founder and president of PSP and Associates, author of the book Creating Calm Amidst the Storm. As we get back into it, if you hear something you'd like to get some answers on, 623-792-5496 is the number. That's 623-792-5496. Phillis, I know you have to have a junk drawer in your house just like I do in my house. You have a junk drawer, right? Or are you one of those people? I
absolutely do. Wherever my husband leaves stuff on the counter,
it goes in there.
Whatever's left on the counter goes in the junk drawer, and he's constantly getting frustrated because he can't find it.
Well, then you should have put it away,
stuff.
Harry. You should have put it away the first time.
That's exactly right. It stays out for a little while, and then it goes there. At least it's in one place.
Yes, I know. And we have these too. We actually have a couple of junk drawers because I have mine that has like all the recipes that I print out, and it has coupons and just all my little kitchen-y things that I need, and my chalk, because I have a chalkboard in my kitchen where I write my menus out, and I have mine. And then the kids have their own and theirs.
Isn't there room a whole junk drawer?
Oh my God. Yes. The majority of our house is their junk drawer. And they have, the stash of batteries for their Wii remotes and all their little remote control things and rubber bands and scissors and just all the stuff that gets put in there. And here's the thing. A junk drawer is good because you keep all the stuff in it, but then it's a nightmare because it's unorganized, it's not functional, and that's what is frustrating to me about the junk drawer. And as we think about that, I wonder how many people come to you and they think they've got a plan, they think they've got all this stuff sorted out, but what you see is kind of a financial junk drawer. It's just all this stuff that needs to be organized.
Yeah, I understand it. But what I usually see is a financial junk drawer, because you think about it. You've worked, in your lifetime, maybe you've worked 2-3 places, and so now you've got some 401ks. Maybe you rolled it over to an IRA. Maybe you didn't. You got a little bit here. You got a little bit there. The friend of a friend of a friend got in, right. Talked to you about this. You got stuff all over. And again, old habits die hard. So what most people focus on during the accumulation phase is, because Fidelity tells you to, is build up X amount of dollars and then you're golden. So they walk into our office with stuff all over the place, and I'm glad they've saved. A little here, a little here, a little there, a little there. And they're feeling pretty good about it because they've saved enough money to retire. That's just a piece. That's just one
just
step.
a little bit of it,
And
right.
yeah, but if you have that financial junk drawer and you don't organize it and you don't know when to utilize things and you don't know when to take out of which taxable account or which tax deferred account and when, that junk drawer can turn into a real pain. Like you were just saying, very complicated. So that's kind of what we do. We organize that junk drawer for people. I'm glad you have it. I hope you have a lot of stuff and I hope you've accumulated. But now we've got to organize it. Otherwise, it's going to cost you. How many times, I don't know about you, but my husband will say, I went out and bought something new because I couldn't find X. Right?
Yes.
Right? We don't want to do that in our junk drawer. We don't want to pay more than our fair share of taxes because we didn't understand the best tax efficient strategy for taking money out in retirement, for one thing. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because you are exactly right. The number of times we go and we buy another little tool or another little this or that, not realizing that we had exactly what we needed. We just couldn't find it. Talk a little bit about how we do that inventory of all the stuff we have with our retirement so we understand what we have. And then we start to understand how to use it. And then I wonder, Phyllis, once you've helped people with those things, can we make changes to any of these things if it turns out that maybe we're not set up the way that we need to be?
Wow, that's a long question.
That is a lot. And now I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to let you go.
So one really great functional part of our Retire Fit analysis is we take the whole junk drawer and we put together an asset sheet and we lay it out from whether it's safe, whether it's at risk, whether we look at tax diversification. How is it going to be taxed? Is it taxed all the time with the 1099-R? Is it tax deferred where you'll pay the taxes later, or have you already paid the taxes? We lay it all out. If it's a couple, we break it down by what's the husband's retirement accounts, what's the wife's, what's joint, how's it titled, and that really begins to make some sense. Here it all is, and we lay it out by different investment types, different risks. So do you have CDs? Do you have it in cash? Do you have it in a money market? Do you have it in an annuity? Do you have it in life insurance? Where is all your money? What's the asset diversification? What's the tax diversification? What's the risk? How much risk you're taking? We break it all down, and the asset sheet's a great place to start. And then we go through different diversification. So, we look at everything. And we also do the same thing with income sources, reliable income sources. What are those? Maybe you have 2 pensions. How much is coming in? When is that going to come in? Social Security. We want to look at the best way to take that. We look at the different strategies and we analyze all that. So we kind of take that junk drawer and we organize it. And in answer to your question, Jen, can we change things? Absolutely. Once you lay it all out and we figure out what we need our money to do and when in retirement, there's certainly things that you can move around. But before you move it around, what we want people to do is understand where your assets lie, understand what's important about them, understand what you need the money to do and what it's actually doing. And we break it down into bite-sized pieces. We actually call it our Retire Fit report card. Okay, so we build that asset sheet and we talk about what your budget is, and then we look at your security income score. So based upon how much income you're going to need, how much income do you have coming in reliably, and we compare that to what it's going to cost you to fund your retirement. Mm-hmm. And we show you any gaps there. And then we go through, we assess all of your investments. We look at asset diversification. Are you diversified enough? We look at income projections. We look at how much stress that you're taking. It's our portfolio audit, okay? And we look at the fees that you're taking. And then we go to taxes and we show you, what your tax liability is today and what's your future tax liability based upon, your tax rates. What's it going to cost you in the future for taxes? And we lay all that piece out. And we also, something that's really helpful for people is tax diversification. How much do you have where it's always taxed? How much do you have that's tax-free? How much do you have that's tax-deferred? How are you diversified there? And as we break it all down, as you can see that light bulbs go off in people's heads, it's interesting as I watch them. And then we can back into it and start building a plan that makes sense for them for what they want to accomplish in retirement and when they're going to need the money and how they want to spend it. So that's the Retire Fit analysis.
And you can get started on that Retire Fit analysis by picking up the phone, giving Phyllis a call today, 623-792-5496. Again, that's 623-792-5496. And I think it's important, Phyllis, to point out a second opinion is a big part of this as well, because you're doing a lot of reviewing, looking at some of the things that people have done, and then either giving them validation or making recommendations on some changes. So it really is just like getting a second opinion at the doctor's office, because there could be some things that we just don't see because we don't do this every day. We don't understand what the tax liabilities could be, because you can look at some of these things and what the tax impact could be on some of these things that we just don't understand, right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, so many people come in and they understand their investments, but they're or maybe they don't know the exact risk, but they have a good idea of how much they've accumulated and where it is, but they're blown away when we go into that tax analysis, the tax diversification part, because nobody's done that with them before. Nobody's done that. And that's huge. So a second opinion, if you're in good stead and you've done it, confirmation is wonderful. But if you have some things out of line, when would you want to learn about it? When you can control it, or when it's too late? When you can control it.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you've worked hard, you've saved at least $250,000 or more for retirement, whether you're getting close to retirement, whether you've already retired, if you really are not sure that you don't know what you don't know, or that you're on point with everything, great reason to pick up the phone and call us, 623-792-5496. Again, 623-792-5496. And I do want to remind you that even during this period of time that's very tumultuous, we are very effectively able to help people through Zoom meetings and phone calls, or we can be very protected and safe right in our office. However you want to do it, we can lay it right out so that you don't have to wait till this blows over and lose some momentum or make some bad decisions. So 623-792-5496. If you've worked hard, saved at least $250,000 for retirement, why not make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row so that you'll be proactive, not reactive? That's what we do all day, every day. It starts with the Retire Fit analysis.
And that number again is 623-792-5496 to get started on that Retire Fit analysis. That's 623-792-5496. We also invite you to check out the website. There are a lot of great resources available on there. You can also find out about Phyllis's book. RetireWithPSP.com is the name of the website. Again, check out RetireWithPSP.com if you want to find out a little bit more about Phyllis, the book, her team. Lots of great resources available there. Again, retirewithpsp.com. This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. We'll be back.
When it comes to your health, it's clear. You consult your doctor. So why not consult a professional when it comes to money? Just like your doctor, the advice you get from a financial advisor can have a direct impact on your quality of life. Are you paying too much in fees with your current financial professional? What could happen to your nest egg if there's a market correction? If you're unsure, it may be time for a second opinion. Phyllis Sachs-Pilvinus is an independent advisor. She doesn't have a boss on Wall Street. Phyllis and her team at PSP & Associates specialize in designing retirement strategies that can allow you to spend more time enjoying life and less time being concerned about your finances. Get your second opinion. 623-792-5496. Phillis, Sachs, Pilvinus, and PSP and Associates can help make sure your golden years are just that. Golden, 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496. Investment advisory services are offered through PSP Financial Services, LLC, an Arizona registered investment advisor. Phillis, Sachs, Pilvinus is also a licensed insurance agent in the state of Arizona.
Is your retirement plan ready for the long haul? Get a second opinion today from Phillis, Sachs, Pilvinus. Just call 623-792-5496. That's 623-792-5496.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. 1985, Phyllis, the year we went back to the future for the first time. 35 years later, we're going back to 1985 in our Retire Financially Fit time machine. Kind of hard to believe, Phyllis. It's been 35 years since Back to the Future came out. Of course, directed by Robert Zemeckis and had Michael J. Fox in the starring role. And he recently turned 59. So Marty McFly is almost ready to start taking money from his retirement accounts. Phyllis,
wow.
Can you even
wow,
believe it?
I feel old. Oh, my goodness gracious. I feel old now, Jen.
Sorry
thanks,
to do it.
Thanks,
Sorry
thanks.
to do it.
My kids weren't even born.
Yeah, I know. Long time ago, a lot has happened. Other things in 1985, Phyllis, it was the first Live Aid concert. Calvin and Hobbes, that's when it first debuted in newspapers. Wow. Michael Jordan was Rookie of the Year in the NBA in 1985. And here's something that we first heard for the first time, Phyllis. I don't know if you were much of a gamer, but... You didn't play Super Mario Brothers very much, did you?
I didn't, but my husband loved it, and he showed my son when he was young enough. Yeah, I thought I'll just say this: I remember my husband used to watch it. Play it, and my son used to go push B. He wouldn't push the button, but he used to go push B. I can just remember his high pitched squeal.
Oh,
it's the cutest little thing.
I love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I played them. I played Mario Brothers, and to this day, actually, not too long ago, my kids have whatever the latest version is, but they were playing Super Mario Brothers, and there was one world that they got stuck on, and they couldn't figure out how to beat it. And I said, well, I'll beat it for you. And they're like, Mom, you know how to play Mario Brothers? And I said, move aside, kids. Move aside.
Oh, how funny.
I'll take care of Bowser for you. That's exactly
No, that wouldn't be me. That wouldn't be me. Maybe Grandpa could still do it.
There you go.
I know my son could.
Oh, man. Well,
daughter too, probably.
Yeah, I bet they both could. Well, yeah, a lot has changed since 1985, and I have some financial figures to talk about as well. And these, I think, are pretty eye-opening, pretty crazy to think about as well. 1985, Phyllis, the Dow ended the year at 1546.
Wow.
Right? Crazy. Because, we were right before all the craziness happened with the pandemic, we were pushing 30,000, right? And then now, 1546 is where the Dow was in 1985. Cost $2.75 to go to the movies. A stamp cost 22 cents, and the average cost of a new house was $89,000. But the interest rate on mortgages was hovering around 11.6%. Think about that.
Unbelievable. 11.6.
What would we do if we saw interest rates like that today? I mean, what kind of conversation would you be having with your clients if that was where interest rates were today?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean, the only good thing for retirees is they'd probably be making more on CDs in the bank. We'd be doing a ton of those.
Right.
But, wanting to pay off their mortgages would be a huge deal. I mean, it just would be a whole different conversation. But we do kind of talk about that everything is cyclical.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever see interest rates quite as high as when in 1981, 83, when I was building my first house. We built it because that was my husband's line. Mm-hmm. I remember them telling me that a construction loan was going to be 14.5%.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, I think we'll build part of it and then we'll build another part later. I was always practical. I just couldn't see that.
Yeah.
I couldn't. But yeah, kids don't realize how good these interest rates are.
Yeah.
Be a total different conversation all the way around.
Right.
But I like to believe that as we do our Retire Fit process, what I always say is, the thing is, what you've got is finite. You're not going to go back to work. Mm-hmm. You want to live your life independently on your own terms. So the way to do that is to take all your years of hard work, put in some work on the front end, plan for the worst and hope for the best. Right. Because could interest rates go historically high? Yes, they could. Could the market go up? Could it go down? Yes. Could there be a healthcare crisis? Yes. Big one. Big one, big one, mm-hmm. big one. Will taxes go up? Absolutely. This is the one I want to scream from the rooftop right now. I talk about risk. I talk about everything else, but I've got to tell you, taxes are on sale today, people. Taxes will go up. Definitely. When you wake up January 1, 2026, taxes will be back to where they were in 2017, which is a lot higher than they are now. And because of all of the money that's been printed lately, all of the stimulus, they're going to be higher than that. Wow. Huge, huge, huge thing that today proactively we help people plan for.
Yeah.
And plan for the worst.
Yeah, and we think about also, Phyllis, I'm looking at these numbers from 1985 and I'm thinking how frustrating for people who were maybe building or buying their first home back in the 80s when they had those interest rates, what they were back then. And now they're getting ready for retirement and interest rates are where they are now, where they're not really able to live off the interest like what they used to be told. Gosh, what a frustrating way to bookend your career, right?
Oh. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Now I'm depressed. Not only do I feel old, but now no. That's why you've got to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And there is no one size fits all investment vehicle. That's why you need some in the market long term. You need different types of asset diversification, tax diversification. Again, understand everything that could face you and insulate and plan for the worst and hope for the best. And that is exactly the essence of what we do. Where do you want to be in retirement? Where are you in relationship to that? What are the things that you have not considered, that you didn't know that could come along and rid you of your hard-earned money? That's our whole process. Once you understand those things, now what are the different ways that we can insulate you, better prepare you, and make sure that you get to live independently and on your own terms? And if you're not in a position to live exactly as you want to, when would you want to know? Beforehand or later when it's too late? Probably beforehand.
Yeah.
So great reason when we look back to that time. Wow. Interest rates, all the things that we can think about, the prices of houses, everything. Wow, to go to the movies, $2.75, you can't even get a small popcorn for that.
No, you can't go to the Dollar Theater for that. They charge more than $1 at the Dollar Theater. Oh my gosh.
So great reason to pick up the phone and call us, and let's proactively build your plan so that you get to live your life independently and in your own terms, no matter what comes your way, because things will. Mm-hmm. And the number to get started, 623-792-5496. And remember, this is a process that is totally complimentary. Other than your time, you will need to put some time in and be prepared for it. But there's no obligation either, because you know what? Maybe you're already in a good situation. Or maybe you're not, but I'm not the one you want to hear it from. Whatever it is, I can guarantee you this, as we go through the process, we'll give you more information than you had going in. 623-792-5496.
This is Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. I am Jen Rezac alongside. The other thing to think about, Phyllis, as we are in our Retire Financially Fit time machine, looking back to the 1980s, when I was in elementary school, so this would have been the late 80s.
Rub it in.
Sorry. Yeah. I know. Sorry. The principal at my elementary school retired. So he retired in probably, it was like 1987, 1988, something like that. And he just passed away a couple of years ago. And so to me, that was just shocking when I heard that, because first of all, when he retired, he wasn't near as old as I thought he was when I was in elementary school. But also just think about how different the world is today versus in the late 80s. What lessons can we take looking into the future, going back to the future here, Phyllis, and thinking about what could all of this potentially look like for us 20, 30, 40 years from now? That's a big thing to get your arms around.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, so let's just think about this. Like I said before, taxes were in one of the lowest tax rate environments that we've ever been in, and yet we have more debt than, I mean, if you go back to what our deficit was like then and what our debt was like then, oh my gosh, we'll all be depressed. So we're not going to do that, but it's so much higher. So we have future tax consequences, people living so much that means he probably retired in his 50s. And how old was he when he died?
He was in his 80s, I know for sure. So he would have been in his 50s.
And he lived a long life for those days, right? Yeah. People are living much, much longer. You got to prepare for that. Again, with interest rates so low, when they go up, there's good news for the savers, but the other side is there's inflation that you got to prepare for, because inflation goes alongside of that. So there's an entirely different paradigm. Let's talk about healthcare. I mean, even with low inflation right now, the costs for healthcare are going up exponentially.
Yep.
Exponentially. You've got to prepare for that. You know, Fidelity comes out with a study every couple of years, and they say, I think the last time I read it was last year. I'm close. Okay. I'm going to paraphrase. A couple age 65, if they plan to live a 20-year retirement, they need $280,000 put aside for just the normal healthcare expenses, co-pays, prescription drugs, costs of the Medicare supplement. We're not even talking about the big one, the need for custodial care. Right now, today, the average cost of custodial care around the country, if you go into a nursing home, is $78,000, I believe.
Wow.
And assisted living around the country, about $36,000. Home health care, $18.50 an hour. And those costs are going up by 4.5% inflation right now, compounded.
Wow. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And that is why it's important to get started with planning so you can be ready for all of these things down the road. That number to call Phyllis Saxpil-Venus at PSP and Associates, 623-792-5496 to get started on your Retire Fit analysis. That's 623-792-5496. This has been Retire Financially Fit with Phyllis. And as we close out the show today, we have one last flashback to 1985. That was when Columbia Records released We Are the World to help raise money for famine relief in Africa, part of that Live Aid concert. So, Phyllis? Thanks for joining us today. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time. Investment advisory services are offered through PSP Financial Services, LLC, an Arizona registered investment advisor. PSP Financial Services is an independent financial services firm that helps people create retirement strategies using a variety of insurance and investment products. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to safety, security, or guaranteed lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investment products. Insurance and annuity product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. PSP Financial Services, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. You should talk to a qualified professional before making any decisions about your personal situation. We are not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency. This radio show is a paid placement.